All right, welcome to the Building Doctor Show. Let me get that music turned off. Here we go. Okay. Hey, let's do that again. Welcome to the Building Doctor Show. I'm your host, Jens Johansson. Glad to see you here to learn more about your buildings and your communities. Today, we're going to talk about building security tips for condos and HOAs. We're going to be covering some of the basic stuff, but we're also some of the new technology, some simple cost-effective updates, and some mindset thinking for you to be able to design a system and solution that works for you. Our guest and co-host today is Jeremy Gatman from the Talon Group, based out of Portland. Welcome, Jeremy. Please let us
Welcome.
know a
Well,
little
thank you.
bit more about how you can help our HOA clients improve the security of their property.
Gladly.
Awesome. Okay. So if you're joining us on the podcast today, thanks for listening, but you're missing out on the slide content. If you'd like to watch the show for the full experience, visit our website, j2consultants.com, to register for the Building Doctor Show, and you can watch the past shows or attend next time live via Zoom and submit your questions. We're also live on YouTube. You can put your questions and comments in the chat box here on Zoom or on YouTube, and we'll get those answered for you. I hope those of you attending today have some good questions because they really help steer the show and give everyone value. If you have a more specific question, stay tuned for a link to schedule a free one-on-one call with either of us, and we'd be happy to go deeper with you. Our producer, Carolyn, will be monitoring the chat, and I will go through the Q&A panel at the end of the show. The chat's for kind of questions and downloading guides that we may have. The Q&A is where you'd enter your questions, and we can answer those. So remember, this show is for educational content only. We're not giving legal, financial, or engineering advice. So let's jump into the show. Jeremy, we've got a little background thing on you. I learned a bunch in preparing for the show today, and Jeremy is a real wealth of knowledge. And he's got 16 years in the business, including military and even custom executive executive protection and a deeper thing. So tell us a little bit more about Talon, what you do.
Well, Talon Protection Group, we started in 2020, courtesy of the riots. It was a huge bonus for us, as well as the fact that Portland police really cut back on their ability to service the community. So we were designed and specifically developed for multifamily housing. That is our core customer base. That is what we're really good at. So that's your HOAs, your apartment complexes, condos and communities and such. We do other stuff as well. We specialize in executive protection, retail theft prevention, and a whole host of other stuff, including consulting. So
Awesome. Yeah. Well, like I said, I learned a ton in our prep session. So you guys are gonna enjoy it today. So let's jump into the agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about statistics of property crime, kind of focused around packages, units, vehicles. We're going to talk about general access control systems, think front doors and kind of fob or key type keyless systems. We're going to hit practical security tips and best practices. We're going to revisit Phroggers and Squatters. A few episodes ago, we did a Phroggers episode, and that's PH, not F. And you can Google that term. And we call it unseen roommates, people kind of living in your property, and how they're a little different than squatters or trespassers. So then we'll move into the importance of hiring a security consultant or specialist for your community and even your construction team. If you're considering kind of redoing the outside of your building, and now's a good time to update it. We can hide the wires in the walls under the siding and things like that. So it's a good time to think about that, and then get into the Q&A. So getting into statistics, these are higher than I thought. So we're talking packages and deliveries in this slide. Obviously, we live in the Amazon delivery era, and over a third of us have had packages stolen last year. And communities have a target-rich environment due to, of course, all the high volume of traffic, but lots of foot traffic. In Washington, Oregon, there, around 4% of people lose at least one package to theft every 3 months. So that's once a quarter. And kind of getting into break-ins in the units and or car theft. We're unit or home security. It's increasing more than people think. and we're actually the news is reporting a decline, and Jeremy had some insight into that as a little bit of businesses and communities are just kind of getting tired of calling the police and nothing happens. So
Yep.
what was that? Can you elaborate on that?
Dan's totally correct on that. So one of the things that we've been noticing, and we can see it in the Portland crime trends, Whole Foods makes up 30% of all theft reports for Multnomah County, Greater Portland metro area. That's one grocery chain. And it's not because they're more of a victim of theft. They're just the only ones reporting it. One of the problems you have, whether you're in Portland or Seattle, we both have the same problems. Seattle's a little bit rougher because they have a higher population, but a pretty close to the same amount of police officers, is that the call response time and your call loads are literally preventing people from calling the police because they don't feel like a police officer is going to show up in a reasonable amount of time.
Right.
And in case for your lower priority calls, which is what a theft is, especially when you're reporting after the fact, Portland on average is 88 minutes for a police response for a theft call. And that negates your calls that have been taking more than 3 hours to respond to.
That's
Been
really close to
for more
90
than 14
minutes.
hours.
That's really close to an hour and a half.
And
Okay.
that's probably skewed on the lower end because
Right.
they're doing a lot of stuff that's taking them days to get to. Right.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, so that's well, whether it's break-ins or car thefts, we see kind of 25,000 vehicles between the two states stolen last year. And so what we're trying to talk about today is your multifamily property. We've got packages, vehicles. We also have some unit security, and so how we can help reduce that. But we got some more stats. We got home invasion. So this is kind of the unit getting into the unit. There's just more. This is going up. This is statistics from the FBI and Bureau of Justice. 20, almost, over 20% break-ins happen through the back door. 81% happen on the first floor. Almost a quarter happen through a window. And so we have kind of these different areas. 10% use the garage door.
Yep, garage doors are real popular. And most of these are unlocked doors.
Right.
And unlocked windows. Like
Yep.
most of the time, these guys don't have to work that hard to get into your building.
Are garage doors, the automatic garage doors, are they easily defeatable? The car doors?
Yep,
Okay.
there's products you can buy on Amazon for $50, and we'll find the code for your door. Generally, what they'll do is they'll sit down the street, wait for someone to hit a garage button. It copies that code, and then when you leave in the morning to go to work, they come by and just push a button, just like they have your garage door opener, and it opens up. There's a way to defeat that when you're at home.
Okay.
Most automatic garage door openers have a lock feature. You just put the little thing next to the push button and lock it. I recommend doing that at night, especially when nobody's leaving and everybody's home. But obviously, it's not something you can do when you're leaving.
Right.
So,
okay. Good to know. Let's see, more of these. Over 65% of burglaries affect residential properties, but small business gets almost 35%. And then 65% happen during daylight hours or during the day when most people are gone at work. There was a kind of a big number down there, 3.5 billion in personal property. And I think these are kind of big numbers, and it's a reality that nobody wants to discuss. But
huge numbers, and they're probably again still low. A lot of businesses since 2020 have lost insurance, especially in downtown centers for major population areas. So there's no financial reason to report it. They're not going to recover anything. And then again, if you have to wait 2 to 4 days for a police officer to call you to tell you to fill out a report online, and I can tell you from the Portland side of the house, that report is very difficult to fill out if you don't know what you're doing. Then you're not going to report. So.
Right. Why bother? Okay. So take these numbers with a grain of salt. We've got some Washington slides and Oregon slides, and they're pretty close. But it's, again, 35% said they've experienced some problems or some theft. Washington has the 6th highest level of property crime nationwide. 50% say they've had package thefts. So these numbers are higher than those first percentages I was giving because those are nationwide. And little interesting, Washington residents prefer to protect their property with security cameras, guard dogs, and security systems. And so I know, when Amazon says your package will be delivered between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. Yeah, my dog barks at 4 a.m. but it's inconvenient. But yeah, the guard dog is one thing. Here's Oregon's. Well, pretty similar statistics. Um, the highlighted section here, only residents in Washington, New Mexico, and Colorado reported higher levels of package theft. And at the bottom, they prefer to protect again with security cameras, guard dogs, and firearms. Okay, well, let's get into that. So, top 4 crimes people are worried about: violent crime, property crime, gun violence, and package theft. And so security measures used in Washington, security measures used in Oregon, very similar, but Oregon likes their dogs more. What's your thought on guard dogs and slipping them a hot dog and they're all of a sudden your friend?
Guard dogs are great. Most of them are super people friendly.
Right,
And what dog doesn't love a dog treat?
right.
Generally, the best guard dogs are the small yappy ones because they make noise. Chihuahuas are the arch nemesis of people who like to break into houses because they
Oh,
would like to
interesting.
know about every bird, squirrel, and person that comes by the door.
Sure.
If you live in an apartment complex or a condo, that can be a little annoying for your neighbor.
Right. So then you get into noise complaints and things like
Yeah.
that. Okay. Couple more statistics, then we'll get into some other things here. So this is your response time slide you were talking about.
Yep.
Response time is 20 minutes.
Yep. So that's for your high priorities. So that's your stabbings, your murders, your in progress, your kidnappings in progress. These are the things that like you want a cop there yesterday, even though the crime's happening now, kind of deal.
Right.
The national standard's 8 minutes.
Okay.
So you can see how different it is. Now that response time is almost cut in half from where it was in 2022.
Okay. Good.
So we were pushing almost 40 minutes for Portland.
Yes. I see it coming back here. Well, this is just for the past year.
I only took that back a year. So if you were start looking back at multi-year times, it goes significantly higher when you get close to that 21, 2022 timeframe. We made some adjustments locally that increased that when our staffing started to come up. Seattle's, by the way, starting to see they just had their largest staffing increase in a very long time from this last year. They made some kind of changes to make Seattle PD kind of go up and start getting the numbers in. But you got to remember, it takes about 3 years before that officer is going to be solo by himself in the car, and it's about 5 years before generally what police would consider somebody, basically competent at the job, right? So the problem you were getting these fixes for in 2023 and 2024 and 2025 aren't going to show up until 28, 29, and 30.
Gotcha. So it's not just this year issue. It's a few years out that we got to be kind of thinking about responding ourselves. So then your low priority calls, these are probably your theft or prowls or,
suspicious persons.
Yeah, suspicious person.
Your property damage calls.
Okay.
So anything that's generally involving a police officer to come out and take a police report.
And so that's an hour and a half. Okay. Wow. All right. And then, here's some of the office staffing. This is the last stat we have here. But this is the breakdown in the officers and those coming on, and here's some of the precincts.
And this is from the 18th of this month.
Okay.
So pretty accurate numbers. Portland Police has just shy of 800 officers. And that sounds like a lot. And these numbers look like they're, we got 100 officers working one of the 3 precincts, or right around 100 officers for each precinct. That's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, plus training, plus medical, plus family and vacation time. That's not per shift. That's available to staff all of that. So you can generally cut that down to about 10 or 12 per shift.
Hmm. Okay.
Central precincts typically staffs around like 15 or 16 per shift. So, when you have multiple calls coming in and you're requiring multiple officers to show up, you can quickly see how fast those numbers deplete.
Sure. Sure. Got it. Okay, let's move away from numbers. Let's talk about how it hits our pocketbook. So the home security features, the average price per square foot of a home, the most value boosting thing you can do. You've got a 17% increase in property value if you have a visible security. And so that's cameras, it's locks, that's signs, that's all sorts of things that says this property is protected. And the quote here, this is coming from vivint.com, that over 25% of Americans prioritize home security features when looking to purchase a new home. And so that would be residents moving in, tenants, your community security. Why should I've got a choice, really, a lot of 2 or 3 bedroom condos in town. I want that one because they obviously are on top of the security stuff. And so, hey, 17% increase. That's a big property value number.
It's a lot
So
of bang
that's
for your
good.
buck.
And so how do we prioritize that? Here's, again, we're interested in this. Security cameras always comes out on top at about 50%. So this is percentage of Americans who would spend over $100 on each one of these items. Smart locks, those are, get away from the keys, move to more of the cars or fobs or push buttons. Lighting is in the top 3. Turn the lights on, have lots of motion sensors, things like that, where the lights come on and it's not this dark entryway. Securing the windows, again, I'll talk about it later. Nothing beats that broomstick or that dowel in the window slide, and it's really tough to open. These little video doorbells, these ring cams, again, they're a camera and a deterrent. Landscape maintenance, what we mean there is kind of landscape design. And so think thorny bushes, roses, holly. If you've ever tried to walk through that, you're getting prickled and poked, and it's just not fun. And so thinking about your landscaping, but also on the back property where there's trees, limbing things up. So people can't hide in the trees, they can't hide in the bushes. You feel safe parking your car over there. Nobody's going to jump out of the trees or jump out of the bushes and surprise you. And you got these other things that take the list, but these are real simple things to do. Video cameras, depending on the elaborate, design of that, but the rest are pretty easy. We've been doing them for a long time. We just need to make sure we are doing them. Anything to add to that as far as?
I mean, a lot of this stuff really isn't cost effective, even if you're looking at it from the commercial space. And it's kind of common sense once you see it, right? There's no such thing as a perfectly secured home.
Right.
Federal government buildings, and I've worked in them for 6 years, they're the most secured ones in the country, really aren't that secure because people are people and we like holding doors open for people, or we like propping
Sure.
rocking doorways, right?
Right. Yeah, we'll get into that.
But if you look at any of your government buildings, your financial institutions, places where security is like really top of their list, what you're going to notice is trees or bushes are cut real low. They try to put things in places to keep people out of places they don't want them to go.
Mhm.
Good lighting, good cameras. And good cameras don't mean expensive cameras. They just mean good, right? High frame rate for recording, high quality video, right?
Yep.
And really, and then making sure that your doors are going to hold up and that your windows are protected. And again, these are not expensive things. It doesn't mean you need to go out and buy new windows. Right.
Yeah.
We'll talk about a little bit probably later, but there's some products you can do to that are really affordable, that doesn't change the aesthetics of your home, but adds significant layers of security through it.
Yeah. You're jumping ahead. We want to get to that though. Okay. So security trends. We're looking at, smarter key control technology. These are the fobs. You don't even need a credit card or a thing on your keychain anymore. You can run it off your phone. There's a focus on cybersecurity. There's integrated home solutions you can do. There's even AI stuff. But a real cheap free one is enhanced community engagement for, security awareness. And when we were talking about that, you were mentioning the AI facial recognition. Elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, so AI driven facial recognition software is going to depend on where you live and your local ordinances. Here in Portland, it's not allowed for commercial buildings.
Okay.
So it's just something to think about. It's technically a crime to use it. Um, the it's a great tool, but it's not perfect. Live in a world now where face masks and for medical reasons or ski masks for some reason is now commonplace, right? So it's not unusual for some to go to a convenience store and see somebody standing behind you with a ski mask on or their face covered up. 15 years ago, we'd have gone, oh, I'm probably getting robbed right now.
Right. Right.
Right. But now it's like, oh, he probably has a cough. So hiding identities is a thing. It's really easy to do. This technology is new, but it is developing, and what it looks like 5 years from now, it may be harder to defeat. But right now, it's unless they're paying for incredibly cost preventative equipment, like cost prohibitive, sorry, equipment, then we're not gonna, you, me, and the average building owner is probably not gonna have it.
Right. Right. Just starting with some kind of fob system where you can control and then integrating some of your
Yeah. Little
other
things like not
things.
having your Wi-Fi routers have passwords as password or 1 2 3 4
One, two,
5
three,
6.
four. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Okay, so access control systems. We're talking about that typical call box. We're talking about fobs and key cards and mobile app-based systems. Kind of the pros and cons of each. There's cost and convenience and reliability, but some of the cons of these call boxes. How hard is it to break into them, and what do you do about that?
Some of them look super secure from the outside. They're, big steel metal boxes, right? But they use a simple latch key.
So
And
the latch key is like that post office
literally turns a
box.
little latch,
Yeah. Okay.
right? That little
Okay.
metal bar, right? It's amazing how easy you can get into those with a screwdriver even. And when you've inside every one of these call boxes, they're all basically identical on the same side. There's a push button for an emergency release for the door. That's what your criminals are trying
Oh,
to get access to. When you close that panel back up, even though it's not lashed and secured, to everybody using the call box and everybody walking by, it looks like that call box is closed. There's ways to defeat that from happening, and it's super cheap and super cost effective. But if you
oh,
don't know about it, you don't know.
that's what? That's reinforcing it, or?
It's a so basically the outside of the boxes are pretty thick, heavy gauge steel. You
Mhm.
drill a hole, run a steel bar, a thick, heavy steel bar through it, out of the way so you can still read everything, and then put two locks on either side. It's super
Mm,
cheap. But
got
now
it.
nobody can pry that door open to get to that emergency call button. If your service tech needs to get to it or you need to get to it as a building owner, it's two keys, right?
Right. Got it. Got it. So strong steel box, but just a cheap little file cabinet lock on it that
Hmm.
you can defeat with a screwdriver. Wow.
Yep.
And then maybe a clear piece of tape to kind of tape the door shut, and then
Most
you
of the time, they don't even bother to do that.
wow.
Um, so same thing with key fobs. They're amazing systems. Love key fobs. We use them in our
Mm,
business. We
mm,
recommend them for our clients. It's really
mm,
nice when you lose one or you let an employee go or a resident moves out that you can deactivate that, right? Now they can't
mm,
build it. But generally speaking, this is where the human factor comes into everything. Most properties like to kind of add a fee to it to replace the cost of the fob. They are a little bit expensive, and
sure.
B, to discourage people from constantly coming to them and losing their fob and actually,
Right.
maintaining it, right? But at the same time, that also discourages people from telling you they lost their fob.
Right. Right. I don't want to pay $250. I'll just
So,
borrow my wife's or roommates. And
so if they see you drop
okay.
your fob on the way out to pick up your car, right, when you leave, now they have a fob to the whole building and your apartment, right?
Oh, so you'd be hiding the fob in a potted
Yes.
plant, and okay,
And
got
then,
it.
if you don't report for 3 days, 4 days, this person has 3 to 4 days to have unlimited access to the building.
To move in and be a Frogger. Yes.
Yep. Or squatter.
Yeah, right. Okay, so some tips. We're getting into, best practices for managing lost or duplicated fobs. You obviously talked about the reporting and not making it embarrassing or too much of a penalty to get a new fob, but also being able to deactivate that lost fob or deactivate that person that has moved out. And then it also gives you a little bit of an access log for monitoring who is coming and going, why are they coming
Who
and going
keeps
at weird
propping your
hours.
doors open?
And
Right.
correct, yeah, the whole prop door open thing. But that kind of brings up the management of the system, and it kind of can get a little bit different there too. So who manages it? Who deactivates it? Who has control of the files? So is this the board president? Is this the manager? There's time and reachability. Are they attentive? Do they have time to reprogram and add things? Are they on vacation and we just can't get another fob till they return? And so then you also have kind of securing the who has control of the files. Well, if the board president doesn't like me and they're seeing my, you know, or they're seeing somebody's girlfriend come and go, and then all of a sudden, like now we get into all these human issues of, who's a good person for that, and so it kind of gets sticky and gets complicated. So,
Generally, my recommendation is have at least two people who
right.
are not only actually available to do it and have the time they invest in it, especially if you're
Mhm.
looking at a community where that position isn't a paid thing,
Right.
right? So your HOAs, for example, like
Mhm.
it can be pretty time intensive, and especially when there's software updates, chasing
Right.
down batteries, fixing errors with the
Yep.
system.
Yep.
That phone call that comes at 3 o'clock in the morning quite often, right?
Mhm.
It's always good to have another person who's available and then just take turns.
Got
So maybe nobody's getting burnt out on it.
it. So is that something a security company like you would do? Is that part of
This
your
this is something
work?
that we work on the consulting side to make sure that
Okay.
they have these little steps in place. And again, a lot of what we do is we work on not so much on the technical side of the house. We have partners
Right.
that we kind of push the technical stuff out to. We work
Mhm.
on the human side.
Got it.
So it's developing plans, getting written, procedures up and,
Yep.
and letting them know so they have a roadmap to when there's a problem that's like, oh, I just turned to page 3. Sweet. This is what I need to do.
Right.
Or
Here's the
this is who I
protocol.
need to call.
Yep.
And then that
Yep.
person knows also why they're getting called and what their responsibilities are.
So along with management of the system, we've got setting access permissions. Everybody's got a house cleaner, or they've got some guests, or they've got vendors. And then don't forget about our Amazon and FedEx people, as well as fire and medical. They
Mhm.
can't have access to the call box. They have to bust the window and get in. And so they're damaging more things. So notifying these people, letting them know. But management of the system, kind of that discretion confidential that I talked about. Um, just making sure they're not posting. Look, I found out whose dog is pooping all over everything, and they post videos to the Facebook page, and it really hurts or becomes more of an issue. But kind of the management is something to think about. Okay, then life cycles of systems. This is another thing to think about. How long does the electronic stuff last? We've got breakage, we've got updates, we've got obsolescence. And I kind of was comparing it in two different things. There's the DIY, hey, I can buy this stuff on Amazon and look at me. But then there's the professional grade. And obviously, the professional grade is maintained or monitored, it's updatable, it's more durable. But bottom line, these things are out in the weather, they're just getting pounded. And then electrical things like your phone, I mean, I'm always, after about 2 years, it's like it doesn't work like it used to. Do I need a new one? So, what are some things? What are life cycles we can kind of plan for with
It's
cheap
it's
systems, and bigger
it's
systems?
really going to depend on how abusive you are with it. If it's a thing that's sitting on the front door, it's not really getting used, and you're staying up to date with updating software and maintaining it, it's not in the
Hmm.
weather. It'll last a while.
Right.
Um, for commercial applications, I would not use DIY systems. Hire
Mm.
a professional to come do it and help manage that because when something breaks, you probably have warranties and other stuff. And that in itself can save you a lot of money. And then again, you don't know what you don't know until you get into something.
Right.
And the chances are that if you hire a professional who handles this every single day, they've seen about all of the stuff that could go wrong after a few years, and then they know how to quickly fix it. So you're not just throwing cash at a problem.
Right, right. Yeah, good point. Okay, let's go back to packages and kind of mailroom safeties. And so we talked about the growing theft and impact, and but common weak points in mailroom design, or maybe some of these older communities, this was before we had all this delivery. And
Mhm.
so they're saying just put the pile of boxes in the entry. And so what kind of, you know, input do you have? And we said a few of them here, but
Yeah. So
what
if you're in a townhouse or your common stuff, single family home type community, you're going to see a lot of porch thefts. That's just
mm,
what's going to happen. There's some products that you can use that kind of, again, doesn't make it so obvious there's a package sitting in it. Like there's a lot of people use lockable boxes or something that they can lift.
mhm,
Packages will fit in. It's not going to fit in everything, but it'll fit most of it.
mhm,
Um, your more commercial type applications, again, your downtown condos, your large apartment complexes, et cetera, they've all kind of pretty much started moving towards Amazon style package lockers.
mhm.
Um, they're great, but the people who break into them for a living know how to break into them, and it takes them no time at all. Generally, what we see very consistently, these are things that are put out of the way and built parts of the building that look secure but are not secure at all because nobody can see it, right?
Right,
Criminals like working when where nobody's looking, and when you don't want the unsightly giant bins stuffed somewhere, you're
right.
gonna stick them someplace where people don't see it all the time.
Yep,
So all what they have is infinite amount of time to do what they do, which is crime,
got it. So
right?
good visibility, good lighting,
Yep.
central area access. A
Understand it's
lot,
not foolproof.
right. A lot of these, I mean, we've remodeled a lot of common elements of here's the kiosk for the mailboxes, and we're like, it's totally enclosed. You can get, you know, assaulted in there and nobody would even see. And so, but we also see some downtown places tearing out the storage room to kind of open up, this locker area
And
to the
again, this is going to
entrance.
come where your key fob problem comes in. If you're again, a commercial design building for commercial applications, specifically for housing,
Mm,
right? Where we're seeing a lot of times is you key fob into the building, then you key fob to call the elevator, and then once you're in the elevator, you key fob again to go up to one of the
mm,
floors,
mm,
and then you got a key fob to the door. Well, if you're the Amazon delivery guy and you got to deliver the package to the door, you can't get anywhere except the ground floor.
right,
So now what does that mean? That means your whole building's piling up packages in one place, which is in the middle of the lobby,
right,
right?
right.
Or in some little room that's just off the lobby. And it's probably got a pretty nice little sign that says, hey, this is where I put my packages when you come to
Mm,
drop them off. Um, it's great for the Amazon guy to find it. It's also great for everybody who wants to steal all your Amazon packages
the
to find it.
the random guy to find it too. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So
Yep.
you'll see it as a common theme when you start looking into security. Technology is amazing. We love it. It makes our job really easy.
Mm,
Um, but we always have to look back again at the human factor. What makes our life easy also makes lives for other people's easy, that don't necessarily have good intentions. And then locks, doors, and stuff are designed to keep honest people out.
right.
People who really want, and the lazy, right? The
Right.
people who really want what's in there, they will find a way to get in there in a way that you don't want them to.
Okay. So now talking about video systems, and we've got a couple of site maps here. What we're looking for is kind of the how much video coverage do I have? And so starting with just kind of a basic outline of your building and kind of plotting, if I put a camera here, I'll be able to see this back deck and these windows. But you can pretty quickly notice that this window and this half of the building is not surveilled, and this half of the building is not. And so you're kind of picking and choosing, but it's helpful to put this plan together and think about a no blind spot design. But again, in the video world, we're looking for proof and deterrence, not so
Mm.
much we're not stopping the crime, we're recording it to happen, but we're looking for that data there.
Yep.
And so,
Cameras is a rule is what we tell all of our clients. Cameras are amazing. They're really great for recording the crime after it happened or when it happened, and
right.
then helping you solve that crime, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So,
Terrible at stopping crimes.
right.
They might dissuade somebody like, yeah, I'm probably going to get this on, camera. They might see my plates when I come into the parking lot or whatever.
Mm,
But again, most of the time, if I don't want my car to get found out, what my license plate number of my car, I just unscrew the license plate. If I don't want somebody to see my face, I put a mask on.
Right. Right.
And
So
all of
what
that
they
right now is
saw,
socially acceptable in major cities.
what's that?
And all of that is socially acceptable and normal in major cities.
Right.
So the car with no license plate and the guy with a mask isn't really going to stand out too much.
Not anymore. Yeah. So cameras are good in the sense they don't solve the problem, but they give evidence to file a police report, show patterns of behavior that can be changed. They
Mhm.
can get some additional police monitoring. We can track bad guys as they walk down from property to property, as they hit that one and they get kicked out of that one and go into the next one and go into the next one and go
Great
into the
for
next.
insurance. Great
Yeah.
for your insurance claims, your liability
Mhm.
claims in case of lawsuit or, where everybody's getting sued these days.
Mhm.
You want to, if you can record like, no, we didn't leave the puddle on the middle of the lobby floor for 6 days.
Right.
Like the person came over here, dumped it out, and then slipped on it.
Right.
Right. There's no
And,
negligence. So
who,
cameras do a
who,
lot of stuff and they can save you a lot of money and a lot of headache, or they can help alleviate a lot of that.
right.
But they're a tool and a small part of that tool package.
Gotcha. Yeah, proven whose car backed into the lobby entrance and damaged the fence. Yeah, they're
Exactly.
good for proof. Here's another good kind of a site surveillance outline of a bigger building, maybe a bigger parking lot, and you can kind of see these rings. Maybe this camera has these angles. There's two cameras out here. One of the drawbacks is obviously these bigger cameras require power, and so we're starting to trench to get some power out here. We're trenching around the fence line. We're putting in new things. But again, it's yeah, who spilled the paint in the lobby? Who scratched the elevator moving in? Who left their furniture by the dumpster? Kind of
Who
that slip and
who
fall.
drove into 6 cars in the parking lot? Um, the big question that you always want to ask is, is this a refit, or are we getting in at the beginning of the design process?
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
really cheap to put security cameras and plan for security systems and all of your security planning before the buildings actually starts being built.
Right.
It gets incredibly expensive when you have to come to a building that has been built since like 1930 and you're trying to
Mhm.
renovate that to manage now data, electrical, and stuff where nobody thought you would ever need electrical or data.
Right.
Didn't need data at all for that matter.
What using this site plan and saying I've got 6, 7 cameras. I want a decent enough thing where I can read license plates. How much would this cost to add to an existing building? Is this a
It
thirty
could be tens
thousand?
to hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Could
It's
over a
going to,
hundred?
yeah,
Okay.
it's going to depend on what kind of cameras you want, what kind of data management system you need, how many
Hmm.
cameras you're going to put on the inside of the building, right?
Okay.
Are the cameras microphone? Do they have night vision capability? Do they have thermal capability?
Hmm.
That's becoming a
Well,
thing, a trend now.
yeah,
Um,
those sound pretty fancy, but
yeah, are
could I
they
do
fixed
something?
camera? Are they gonna, pan tilt zoom? Are they gonna auto track? Like
Hmm.
the more feature rich you build into your system, it can be beneficial to you to a certain degree. It can get a little pointless at it on the as well
Right.
when you start moving out to your spectrum. But again, this is where a good security consultant with somebody who's an expert in these systems and developing and installing these systems can sit down with you and they can cover those costs ahead of time.
Okay.
Or they might recommend like, hey, here's the cost for this plan B. Let's look at this
Right.
cost.
Kind of a good, better, best. Could
Mhm.
I get a reasonable system for 50K for this
Sure. Sure. It's going to depend
big,
on the size of the building.
outside? Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Depends on
And
the size of
so,
buildings, types of cameras, whether you already have power at those locations, right? Are you
mhm,
going to send that data via Wi-Fi or are you going to hardwire it?
okay.
So there's plenty of different ways to do it. There's ways to do it in most budgets. It's just,
Okay.
yeah, it's one of those things you're going to want to sit down with somebody who's an expert in it and kind of help plan that out.
So just doing a cost value analysis, if this type of property has a $25,000 insurance deductible,
Mhm.
that's two insurance cases to have that it basically pays for itself. So I
It could
could,
be more than that.
okay, I could defend against this uh, baloney claim and save
Mhm.
myself, nuisance settlement costs, which are
Lawsuits are
higher
getting
than
up into the
20.
tens of millions now.
Right.
So, you know, showing that hey, we did to put down ice, de-icer. We did do this
Right.
stuff. Here's the footage of us doing it. Like this
Right.
didn't happen. Like at this
Yep.
point. In fact, this person was never here during this time frame. We have it on
Right.
camera, right?
Yep.
That can
Yep.
save you in a slip and fall lawsuit. That can save you, you know, if someone's drunk driving and plows through your building and
Mhm.
you're able to go, oh, that's the resident in 17B, right?
Right.
Like all
Yeah.
of a sudden now you have an insurance company to go after and it's not yours,
Right.
right? So chances of your rates going through the roof is lower.
Yep. So talk
Or
about insurance
cover damage.
discounts on
Mhm.
premiums and deductibles. Are there discounts available for these kind of
There
security?
is, and you're gonna want to talk
Okay.
with your insurance company on what those levels are. They
Hmm.
might require certain things, but
Hmm.
anytime you're integrating into a security system, be it physical site security with security officers like we provide, uh,
Hmm.
or patrol services or security cameras, and the more reporting and capability that has, it's
Hmm.
going to save you money. Prime example, and we deal with this every winter here in the Pacific Northwest. Water pipe bursts when it gets cold.
Hmm.
Well, is that water pipe burst and running for 12
Days,
hours?
hours,
Especially if it's a
days. Right.
fire main, or was it
Right.
15 minutes?
Got it.
And you're able to document exactly how it burst, or likely at least what time it started and when it ends. You show that you took the reasonable amount of steps to get somebody there to deal with the issue, right?
Hmm.
That's helpful for your insurance company.
I mean, cameras even help for monitoring subcontractors in the sense
Mhm.
of I can show you weren't even on site today. Come on, get out there and get this stuff done.
There's new ones
And
now that like the thermal camera is a huge bonus because they're able to detect fires at the earliest stages.
right,
So it's like your
good
construction
point.
sites or your buildings under construction. A lot of places are starting to install those now,
Mm,
and even on a temporary basis. Again, like if you got a new building you're developing, you don't want the thing to burn down.
right,
So if
right.
you can start it now, before you can stop it before you have the whole building in flames.
Yep.
Video surveillance and video systems are amazing tools. And again, this is something you should be working with a consultant with,
Mm,
and somebody who's an expert, also an expert in this field.
yeah. So again, this isn't about preventing the crime, but it's about documenting, it's about changing habits, it's about monitoring things, and it's kind of getting proof of who did what when,
Hmm.
and some liability protection, some insurance deductibles and insurance reduction. So yeah, I mean they're a good tool in that. So now we have managing multiple systems. And so we've kind of got this convenience security balance or this piecemeal access solutions. And so this is one more system that now I, as a board, have to worry about. I've already got the fire system, the HVAC, the elevator, whatever other building systems. Now I have a security system or an entry system, and so do these things talk to one another? And so this gets into that planning of what do you already have? What do they have that's a bolt-on feature that accomplishes what we're trying to do?
Hmm.
Or you're dealing with multiple systems, multiple apps, multiple codes and logins, different Wi-Fi ratings. This camera works on 2.4, but this one needs 5.0. And now I got to upgrade these things. We've got Apple and Google and Microsoft compatibilities. And
The
so,
out-person compatibilities now too. So your security whoever your security coordinator is going to have to work with your IT coordinator for the
mhm,
building. So there's a lot that's going to end up going on when you put these systems in. If they're the same product or the same brand that is designed to work with each other, it can relieve a lot of headaches.
right,
Not all solutions come from the same, or the best solutions come from the same vendor.
right. Yep.
But maybe so sometimes you have to pick what that is. And again, Salt like me is going to come in. We're going to look at your risk, right? We're going to
Mhm.
look at where your concerns are. We're going to look at what the data says that the problems are more likely to come with, and we're not just looking at theft and crime. We're looking at liability,
Mhm.
um, and how to limit that liability for you, as well as all of those other things.
Right. Building maintenance costs. And yeah. Yep. We see a lot of, hey, that HVAC or that elevator system is great. Don't mind that old DOS 8 computer next to it. That's what runs the system. it doesn't talk through the web. They can't control it with their phone. They get kind of frustrated with it. So this gets back into that lifespan question of everything should be workable from my phone if I'm managing this building, and now I can't. And so, when boards start considering, hey, I'm doing these other major upgrades, let's really start thinking about a security upgrade as well. And
Mhm.
so that's what we're trying the point we're trying to get across here. So cloud-based or app integrated platforms. The drawbacks to these are monthly fees for updates and systems monitoring. But the benefit is the remote access for property managers, or to be able to reassign that control when, hey, I'm going on vacation. Here's the login.
Or outsource it
You
even.
run it, outsource it. Yeah. And do you see from a crime prevention standpoint, since everything is cloud based, we used to cut the power wire in the old movies. Now are they cutting the internet wire and we don't have
So we've
internet
seen a
anymore?
theme where people haven't figured out these are cloud-based and they're not physically stored on site, especially
Okay.
camera footage. So
Yeah.
they'll come in, they'll steal the whole server rack,
Mm,
but they're
yeah.
not getting anything. They're just got them on video stealing the server rack, right?
Got it.
The big problem that we have now is police have limited time to do investigations and they have limited time to deal with you on the call because there's 30 other calls pending. It's not personal, it's just time
Mhm.
management for them. Like we all do in every bit of our days of our lives, their job's the same way.
Right.
So for them, when you call and you have a problem, or one of your residents calls and has a problem, they're like, well, you got security cameras. Can I get the security footage? And you're like, yeah, but a guy's not going to be here till Thursday. It's Saturday.
Right.
And then he's only going to be here for an hour. I can put a request in and you might get it in 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like, while the guy's sitting on the corner, we know that's that guy, but we don't have the evidence of it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So the the ability to get instant data, send that data over quickly and efficiently, even if it's
Mhm.
just a link to an email for a police
Mhm.
officer, is amazing. Same thing with your security company. If you have a security company and they're like, hey, we think this is what happened. Is there any way we can get this solved, or can we access it?
Yeah.
Right? Like obviously you trust us to deal with all your problems if you're hiring a security company and you're a competent one at that. Um, for us to be able to go on there and like, okay, I need the video footage from this day. Boom, I can do it right from my car. That's amazing,
Right. Yeah.
right? That's
That's
just
cool.
information faster. And that's
Yep.
really when you're dealing with crime problems, you need fast information and accurate information.
Otherwise,
Accurate's
otherwise
great,
you lose the
fast is
police's
great, but you
attention
need
and
both.
they never get back to you. Yeah. Got it. Okay. We talked a little bit earlier. Everybody's seen these on Amazon. Here's the DIY kind of. I can get the Ring cameras. I can get even the Simply Safe systems. But what we're saying is, these work maybe for your unit and it's one person. But when we're talking about a building or a community or even, a community with 20 buildings, it's worth it to get that professional consulting or the professional install, the updates. And yeah, it's $100 a month or whatever it is, but you're getting those updates, you're getting that good quality material, and you have somebody that can help you navigate this stuff. So
Exactly. And a lot of times what people don't realize is once you start putting these together, the amount of infrastructure you need to put in place to make them work is going to cost you as much as a
mhm,
professional system. So we do get clients from time to time. We try to hodgepodge this together. And
mhm,
it's like, look, man, if you would have just told us, we would have put you in touch with these guys. They would have had this done weeks ago.
right,
And you had a system that actually would be working a month from now instead of you buying Wi-Fi, signal
right.
boosters and littering your
Yep.
property with them that now
Mhm,
I can access your cameras and I'm not particularly technologically competent, right? Like I'm not a hacker.
mhm,
But if I can log into your cameras and see what all your cameras are doing, so can the bad guys.
right. Yep. Okay. Enough of this AI camera stuff. Let's talk about just practical, super practical. So we talked about reinforcing call boxes in common areas with just
Mhm.
padlocks and a piece of metal, or just beefing it up. The sturdy, secure hardware still works. Everybody wants to buy the $13 door latch instead of the $60 one, but the $13 one you can bend with your hands. Um, Extra door strike and hinge reinforcement is literally longer screws and plates. And so
Yeah.
very easy stuff to do. physical latches and sticks in the windows still work just fine. And they, again, that deterrent. Somebody said, there's a stick. I'm just going to go next door.
Yep.
And so, kind of the next page of just updating these outdated locks to smart locks. We get some cloud-based access we talked about. Maybe we put in a few cameras. We have some proof, or we have some evidence of proof. But all this gives that visibility that your community is safe and secure. It improves it up to 20% property value, reduces anxiety, deters general crime, and gets them to just move on to the next building that doesn't look like it's a bad thing. So again, very simple stuff. I know we talked about a $50,000, $100,000 camera system, but these are things you can do today. You can find some longer screws and screw them in.
Yep.
And
There's also
fix
cool
them.
products. If you're anywhere near a downtown or a major area, everybody's had problems with graffiti, right? And nothing more frustrating when somebody graffitis your windows.
Okay.
It's expensive. You better hope the insurance company is willing to cover that, because some of these windows are going to cost you several grand a piece, right?
Wow.
3M makes a product that you just put over the window. It's 70% visibility or 50% visibility. It comes with a tint or not.
So it's kind of a tinting film.
Yeah, but it's specially designed. So if somebody spray paints on it, you just wipe off the paint. It can't dry.
Okay. Is this also the
Peel it off
same?
and put another one on.
Is this the breakage of glass too?
So they have that as well. So they have
Okay.
other films that you can put on that prevent the breaking of window. We all love our decorative front doors. I have one on my house, right? But putting glass next to a lock within arm's reach, probably not.
Right.
But it kind of defeats the purpose of the lock, right? Unless
Yeah.
you're just trying to be, worried about your nice neighbors.
Mhm.
But 3M makes a window film. Again, it's tinting or non-tinting, and you can throw a cinder block at it. It ain't coming through the window.
So the window breaks, but it's held
The window
together.
will break, but it's all the glass, everything's
Okay.
entrapped. So there's one thing, it means you're not walking over glass and have glass shards, cutting up
Sure.
your feet or tracking through the house. Awesome, just
Mhm.
on that side of the house. But it also makes it a giant nightmare to get through.
So you put it on both sides of the window panes? It just makes
It's
a
generally on one
sandwich.
side, and there's plenty of window companies that will come out and apply it for you.
Okay.
Again, it's really not expensive. You could kind of, if you know how to do window films and window tints, you could do it yourself.
Mhm.
But again,
So we could just Google 3M what? Window
it's
security.
Safeguard, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Um, but if you just search 3M window film and go to 3M's or security film or window film,
Oh,
they'll
that's a
be
great,
on their
yeah,
website.
great
Um,
place.
but yeah, it's a great product. It's really nice. It doesn't change the aesthetics. It's not like putting bars on outside your windows,
Mhm.
right? Everybody knows that you're in a rough neighborhood when you look around and you see big old steel bars across all the
Right.
windows.
Job site construction trailer. Yep.
Yeah. Or it's common for what, 40 years on houses.
Sure.
Um, but you're like, oh, rough neighborhood. I see. Right. Same thing. Now you're functionally getting the same thing out of it, but it's invisible and you're really the only one that knows it's there until somebody throws something at it, whether it be
That's
a baseball
fantastic.
or a baseball
Yeah.
bat.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to look that up. Get that for my house. Okay. And then just talking about it. Here's where we're getting the, resident and staff and, you know, just community tips. So encouraging vigilance, see something, say something, and educating residents on access rules and package safety, no tailgating that's letting somebody in behind you or holding the door open. Sure, man, everybody wants to be nice. And then no putting a rock in the door to prop it open while I go out and let the dog go to the bathroom or have a smoke break. And so every single door I go into in a commercial building, you can see the door wedge, you can see the big rock. It's clearly there. People do it all the time. And also having a big rock by the door isn't a good idea either,
They'll
unless
pay
you
a
have the
thousand
window
dollars to
film.
put the fancy lock on the door, but it's being held with a piece of landscaping rock.
Right, right. And then just kind of the importance of rekeying regularly, reprogramming, code changes after turnovers, kind of going through that, making sure your list of people is accurate. This can probably also help, who are renters,
Mhm.
when these people are on the list, but these people don't have, they're asking for a code.
Know your
And
neighbors.
so, yeah,
We don't
being able to
like
know.
this is a big common thing right now is nobody talks to their neighbors.
Right.
You know it every time we go to an apartment complex, it's like, well, Who lives next door to you? Oh, I've never met them. Well, how long have
Right.
you been here? Well, I've been here at least 5 years. Well, how about them?
Years.
Oh, a couple of years.
Right.
And you're like, and you don't even know their name or what car they drive? Oh, like they drive that car, but I don't know. I don't know who they are. I can't barely
Yeah.
remember what they look like. We don't talk to people.
Right.
And when we talk to people, we meet each other, we know a little bit about each other, maybe
Hmm.
have their phone number in our phone in case there's an emergency.
Hmm.
Um, it builds community.
Yep.
And when somebody's trying to move into that community who doesn't belong there
Hmm.
or obviously would not know, like
Right.
every time I contact somebody who's doing crime on a property, they're always there to see their cousin.
Mm.
They can't tell me who
Because
their cousin
the
is, but they're there to
cousin
see their
excuse.
cousin, right?
Okay.
And then sometimes they'll give you a name.
Okay.
Like if you know that your neighbor isn't Jimmy,
Right.
it's Doris.
Yeah.
And Doris
Yeah.
is in her 70s. She doesn't have a 26-year-old cousin,
Right.
right? Then at least you have the beginning of, well, that's suspicious.
Right.
But if
Right.
you never bother to talk to your neighbor, you're going to lose out a lot of this stuff.
So this is the community, get to know your community, and we've had lots of things on that in past shows. And it's just this is all free. Talking, talking and communicating.
Talking
So
cheap.
okay, we're gonna bomb through this stuff, but everybody likes the Phroggers. This is a group. Let's see, these guys found a vacant corner in a mall, an unused corridor inside Rhode Island Mall. And they moved into the space and even brought in their own blocks and brought in their own door and just kind of snuck it in there and installed it. And they're here hanging out on the couch and have a lamp and TV and playing video games. And this went on for 4 years. And so this is inside a mall. We've got another one. This guy broke into a home in Honolulu and lived in there for a while. Even Pamela Anderson and any Hollywood star, I imagine, gets bothered by people breaking in and wearing her swimsuits. But this is what we see. We see, hey, why is there a coat up in the attic on top of this heat duct? And this gal heard some weird noises, and her sons and nephew went up in the attic to check, and sure enough, they found her ex sleeping up there. And of course, people just kind of move in. Hey, there's plenty of room in this attic. I can stand up and I can move around. It's warm. This is great. So,
It's becoming a thing for houses, a little harder for homes. We see it in
mhm,
every apartment building and every commercial building. If it has more than one floor, we're going to see somebody trying to live in the building.
right.
And it's generally your stairwells, it's your bathrooms, um, it's
Okay.
supply closets,
Gotcha.
it's storage units. You see it everywhere.
And you
And
were you were
nobody's
you were
aware.
talking about the top stairwell alcove. I mean, the
Mhm.
bottom one makes sense because you kind of got to go around the corner and maybe there's some weird gate thing. But you said the top of the stairs are common.
Yep. So
Okay.
it's either going to be the top floor or the bottom floor.
Okay.
On the bottom floor, you generally have a lot of stairs that have a kickback that's covered, but if you
Hmm.
crawl around it, you can actually tunnel in there. Uh,
Mm. Okay.
so that's a common place. The other place is every building, especially in like downtown buildings, large apartment complexes or large condos, single building condos, they have a roof access because
Hmm.
that's where your HVAC systems are. That's all the important stuff is,
Right.
right?
Right.
Well, that floor is generally just above the top floor that residents live on.
Mm.
So
Right.
there's one stairwell that'll go up there, and then there'll be a little like landing with a door, right?
Mm.
That's generally where we find them.
Mm. Interesting. Okay. So let's see. We're running a little tight on time, so we got to pick it up here a little bit. But things to watch for: unfamiliar faces in the building, um, kind of locks tampered with, random things left behind. And you're saying they're actually dressing the part now and blending
Mhm.
in with the building population as opposed to being, here's the homeless guy with dirty clothes. They actually look like they should be there.
Yep.
So again, leaving these doors open, letting people in, not knowing your neighbors. Yeah. So how to protect, obviously secure entry points, monitor unused spaces, resident awareness and reporting, and working with maintenance staff on that. Some of the stories from the maintenance folks are, hey, I'm just here to get to that roof access to service that thing. I'm going to step over this guy. I don't want to deal with him. I've got 6 calls today. I don't get paid dealing with this guy. I'm just going to ignore it.
Hmm.
And so It's like, wow, okay, you saw something, say something. And so getting people to do that. Let's see, looking through the notes, we talked about a lot of that stuff. Okay. And then squatters. How are squatters different? They settle in and occupy a property. And so these are the vacant units or the units for sale, or um, just kind of longer term, and people are eyeballing that.
A lot
And
of your
they
Airbnbs. So
Airbnbs, yeah. And so they can move in and then they kind of get some legal rights because they have to wait for the eviction process. So,
we tell our clients they don't have to prove that they've been there forever. They just have to convince the cop that shows up that they've been there long enough.
mm,
And
okay.
once that's at the call notes, you're dealing with evictions.
Now you're
And
on
it's
the eviction
expensive and
side.
time consuming.
Yep. Okay. So the importance of hiring a security company. We talked about police staffing is lower than before in Portland and Seattle. Um, and we talked just kind of about the security problems aren't going away. And HOAs need to really kind of figure out how to solve these security problems on their own. So how can a firm like yours help, and what sort of we'll put your contact information up here in the next slide.
So
But
first things first, what we do is we provide heavily trained, far beyond the state standard patrol officers to come and respond to your community's calls and patrol your communities.
mm,
Um, it's not significantly expensive. It's kind of a myth that it's cost prohibitive. It'll save you way more money in the long term, and it gives
mm,
your residents somebody to call who will show up. Our average response time for our lowest priority calls is 15 minutes.
mm.
So that's your noisy neighbors, your yappy dogs, right?
So you'll go talk to a noisy neighbor.
Oh yeah, we'll go knock on
Okay.
your door, have a polite chat with them. Hey, here's what your rental agreement says, or this is what your HOA agreement is, and
Mhm.
please quiet it down. Or no, you don't get to throw a kegger at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like
Right.
people are sleeping. And
Okay.
generally that's 99% of the time is that. The other thing it does is it documents those violations from a third
Right.
party or trusted, right?
Right.
So if you do have to go to the eviction route or you have to issue fines and levy fees, it's
Mm,
not he said, she said anymore. It's not the HOA versus Dave, right?
right.
Or the HOA president versus Dave.
Right.
It's Talon Protection has this on body camera, audio, and video. Here's the officer's report. Here's your officer for court. And
Right.
this is what he saw. And here's every time he's come by and had that conversation with Dave,
Mm.
right? And
Yeah.
then
Good. Good.
that's going to save you time, money, headaches, bad publicity, right?
Mm,
It's going to make your residents feel safe because we all feel safe when we can pick up a phone number and somebody comes and deals with our problem. And it also keeps you from having to wake up all the time, 3, 4 times a night, or come in the morning as a property manager and have 40 phone calls because you have 6 residents calling you every hour demanding to know why 331 is throwing a rager on a Thursday night.
right. Got
So
it.
just examples. Also your welfare checks. We,
Mm,
we can do that stuff too. If you want us to check on the your neighbor lady who's old and make sure she's doing okay because you haven't heard from a couple days, that's stuff we can do. If you're a property manager and you're going through your building and you need to check on the one crazy guy you're kind of concerned about, right? It
mm,
makes you feel a
mm,
little weird. Having a security company come along and just be there, even if we're dressed in normal people clothes,
mm,
and report on that and make sure everything's kosher and safe and there's no, and be able to back you and say, hey, no, they did everything right and legal. This was posted, a couple days prior,
right.
right?
How about
Like,
attending HOA meetings that get contentious?
perfect. Love them.
Yeah, cool. We're seeing more and more. Here's the security or the police officer in the back row.
Mhm.
Just a presence. So,
And what we recommend is build a relationship with a quality security provider. Not all
mm,
companies are equal. Not all companies do the same thing or even
mm,
capable of doing the same thing.
mm,
But having that relationship built before there's a problem, even if it's simple as like your fire main goes down and now you're on a fire watch because the fire marshal says so,
right,
right?
right,
Like at least you have somebody you can call or a couple companies you can call and see if they can staff that for you because it's probably cheaper than paying somebody to do it. Or if you
right.
have a normal work life and this is a volunteer position for you,
Yep.
right? It might be better just to break out the treasury instead of you missing, if your attorney missing court or whatever, showing up exhausted. So
Okay. All right. If that sounds good, here is Jeremy's contact information. There's a QR code for you to scan, or you can find him at talonprotectiongroup.com. and he can get you set up or at least refer you on to somebody that maybe can help you with that. So thank you, Jeremy.
You're welcome.
That's great. All right, let's jump into Q&A. I hope you guys have found this interesting. I'm going to go try to find some of that window screen stuff. Okay, one of the questions that was sent in ahead of time. What's one simple security upgrade that boards often overlook but can make a big difference in preventing unauthorized access or frogging? Just kind of getting in. I think my immediate response is just visibility. Again, we talked about sticks and windows, longer screws and door hinges, latches, security signs, cameras, thorny bushes. This gives kind of a hardened look and feel, and then just communicating about the importance of preventing access and reporting suspicious noises and activities. I think these can be real cheap and real fast.
Cameras in those areas of concern.
Yep. Adding cameras. Okay. Next question, how can a board start building a better partnership with local law enforcement or security teams, especially if they're dealing with chronic issues like vandalism and suspicious activity? You talked a little bit about that just recently, of build a relationship with us.
Build a relationship with your security teams. I could do a whole show on how the security industry actually works and how to actually properly vet somebody and what to look for when you're looking for a company. But also do the same with your local law enforcement. Every precinct or district or however your department has things broken down has somebody who's in that community engagement, and if they can build relationships before problems start, it makes it easier for them to squash them.
Yep. And my note was police community officer. Yeah, just reach out and they'll start additional patrols and they'll get to know who you are and just getting to know them and moving forward with that direction. Okay, here's where we jump into the live Q&As, and I see a couple of questions for us. What are some things I should notice or check on as far as safety and security goes when looking for a new place to live? Are there any red flags that I should look out for?
Absolutely. So new construction. One of the things that we consistently see on new construction is that the builders will screw the doors and hinges together with these little 1/8 screws that come with the doors when they ship.
Right. Yeah.
They're falling off their hinges within 2 weeks. Simply looking for that. If you move into a new place, just replace the screws with 3-inch wood screws. Like a box of wood screws costs you $3, $5. Not big deal. Just try to match the color because aesthetics is cool too. Other things to look at is, what do the neighbor properties look like? Talk to the neighbors. Hey, I'm thinking about moving into this place. Is there anything I should be aware about? Any problems with crime or anything like that? Look at previous damage. I would say kind of know your gangs in your local area. A lot of your violent crime is gang driven. So if you start seeing a lot of tagging, graffiti that is gang oriented, that might be a clue that there's more problems. And then your crime stats are generally, for most places, are publicly available. So if I want to see what the crime stats is for all of Multnomah County, I can go to Multnomah County's website and they will show me down to the 8th square mile where my problems are and what time and what types of crimes are happening, and if they're over the city average or under the city average. Not all municipalities do it, but most do, and you can kind of play with that. I guarantee you your insurance company's looking for that.
Okay. Next question. What are the best wide angle lens degrees of coverage that gives you the best coverage but still usable detail to ID someone's face?
So it's not so much angle, it's distance.
Okay.
And then it's going to be what level of quality are you recording at? So when we talk about camera resolution, we're 1080p, right? That's 1080 pixels per a certain measurement. The more pixels I have, which are just basically little individual bits of information, the more I can pull information from. So I can digitally zoom in and have a better picture or not. What we find a lot of times, especially for some reason in convenience stores, which are always getting robbed, is they're recording in like 400p. And like your worst cell phone these days wouldn't record in that level. Why would you expect your cameras to?
And some of that may maybe online storage. These photos or videos
Mhm.
aren't as big, so I've shrinked them
Yeah.
down.
A lot of places are
Okay.
trying to, for some reason, record like 2 months of data on like dozens of cameras. You don't need to go back that far. I
Okay.
say 7 days is generally pretty good,
A
right?
week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you also want to look at your frame rate. So, for if you're taking 60 frames per minute, that's 60 individual pictures every minute. Or sorry, 60 frames a second. That's 60 pictures a second that I get to look at,
Mhm.
right? Instead of 20 or 10.
Right. Got it.
So, mind
Okay.
you, movies film in 30.
Okay. Got it.
So, that's how you get to make people look like they've been hit when they really haven't.
Mm.
Uh, it's all tricks of cameras.
Okay.
So the more
Well,
information you record, the more chances you have to get that perfect picture, that perfect license plate or that face, or see if that punch actually happened.
okay. Last question, unless anybody enters one right now, and we got time for one more. But this last one, I see how much actual prevention slash security comes with having a ring camera. Seems like package theft is always caught on those, but is no longer a deterrent.
Cameras are not deterrents. Cameras just record crime. So they record,
And
let me phrase that. They don't record crime, they record information. It may be a crime, it may not be a crime, but they
right.
record it, right? Deterrence comes from the other things that you do. So
Mm,
that's your lighting, that's your landscaping, that's having the using lockers instead of having things dropped off on your porch, etc. If somebody's dropping off diapers and somebody walks off with a back box full of diapers, it's probably not a significant loss.
right.
Somebody's dropping off a new TV on your porch, you have a problem.
Right. Right. Okay. And let me see. Okay. I think that is all the questions. All right. We've got a little giveaway here. Jeremy, do me a favor. Pick a number between 1 and 11. Those are our live
Uh,
people.
I'll go with lucky number 7.
Lucky number 7. Okay. So as you logged in, Carolyn can see your number of who logged in, and she will reach out to you. So number 7 is the winner of a little swag gift bag here. So, did you know we also have additional training for boards and managers? Free is on YouTube and our website. Paid training opportunities are available. Call us and let's see what you need. These are great for new boards or board members or new management. We can help you get up to speed real quickly. And then don't forget to stream this webinar wherever you go. We're on all the channels. And here's our request. Please do us a big favor and be sure to give us a thumbs up or a 5-star review wherever you hear us. That's our fuel to create more free content for you. So thanks for doing that. And then if you want, thanks for calling in or thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next month. If you want to talk one-on-one to us, scan the QR code or reach out to me at learn.j2consultants.com and we can set up a time to chat. So thank you, Jeremy. This has been informative. I really appreciate it. I know our audience found some value in it. And don't forget Jeremy Gatman at the Talent Protection Group. You can Google him and look him up, and he's agreed to talk to you more in depth if you had more questions. So thank you,
Thank you.
Jeremy. All
Thank you.
right. Thanks, everybody.